Good morning, and thank you all for joining us out here, members of the media. I know we have some members of the public here as well. Thank you. We are in the final stages of a construction project here at the police department, so we're outdoors today enjoying another beautiful and very sunny day in Newport Beach. And I wanted to have a special thank you to everyone following along on our Facebook feed. I'm Jennifer Manzella. I'm the spokesperson for the Newport Beach Police Department, and I would like to introduce our speakers who will be addressing you shortly. First, from the United States Marshals Service, we have David Singer, the Marshal for the Central District of California. He is accompanied by Chief Inspector Bert Tapia today, who is the commander of the Pacific Southwest Regional Fugitive Task Force. Next, we will hear from John T. Lewis, our Chief of Police, and finally, from Orange County District Attorney Tony Rakakis. Newport Beach's Mayor Pro Tem Will O'Neill is also in attendance today, representing the city of Newport Beach. Thank you, sir. I'll begin with a brief overview of the case, and then our speakers will have a chance to give you their prepared statements. Afterwards, we'll have a few minutes for questions and answers. I will also have printed material available for you at the conclusion of the press conference, where you can find links to associated content and additional information. Please just hold any questions until the end. Thank you. On Wednesday, October 10th, 2012, Peter Chadwick and his wife, QC, disappeared from their Newport Beach home. The next day, Peter Chadwick called 911 from a gas station in San Diego, California, and told the local authorities that his wife had been killed by a handyman who had subsequently kidnapped Peter and taken QC's body. Mr. Chadwick, however, quickly became the primary suspect in his wife's death and was arrested for the crime. 1 week later, QC's body was discovered in a dumpster in suburban San Diego. Mr. Chadwick was released on bail in December 2012, and before he could stand trial, he disappeared in January 2015 and became a fugitive from justice. And now I will turn the microphone over to Marshal Singer. Thank you, sir.
Good morning. My name is David Singer, U.S. Marshal for Central District, State of California. I'd like to start by thanking Newport Beach Police Chief John Lewis for allowing us the opportunity to assist his department with this investigation. The U.S. Marshals Service reserves placement on our 15 most wanted fugitive list for those suspected of the most heinous crimes, such as the ones Peter Chadwick is accused of committing. Our deputies, along with our federal, state, and local law enforcement partners, will leave no stone unturned until Chadwick is behind bars. It's not a matter of if we catch him, it's a matter of when. Our track record stands behind that statement. Since the inception of the 15 Most Wanted program in 1983, 243 15 Most Wanted fugitives have been arrested. We look forward to adding Chadwick to that arrest count. The U.S. Marshals Service always stands ready to assist with locating and arresting our nation's most dangerous and high-profile fugitives. And we are here today with that same commitment to the Chadwick case in the Newport Beach Police Department. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marshal Singer. Next, we will hear from Chief Lewis.
Good morning. I'm John Lewis, Chief of the Newport Beach Police Department. On October 11, 2012, the Newport Beach Police Department arrested Peter Chadwick for the murder of his wife. But almost 6 years later, we haven't had the satisfaction of seeing him stand trial. Our investigators have put together all the reports, the witness statements, the evidence that we need, and we're confident in our case. The one thing missing is our defendant. In January 2015, Peter Chadwick disappeared. He left behind his 3 boys who had already suffered the loss of their loving mother. We've never given up on locating him and bringing justice and closure to QC's 3 sons and to everyone who knew and loved her. With the partnership of the United States Marshals Service and the support of the City of Newport Beach and private donors, I'm pleased to announce that we are now offering a $100,000 reward for Mr. Chadwick's capture. Peter could be anywhere in the world. He's got the financial means to avoid the restrictions placed on his travel, and he's taken every opportunity to hide his tracks. We want to spread his picture and the story of his crimes far and wide. We want everyone to be looking for Peter Chadwick. In support of this goal, we've created what I think is a unique and exciting project. The Newport Beach Police Department has written and produced our own true crime podcast. The cover art you can see before me is the countdown to capture. Over the course of 2 weeks, we're going to be releasing a total of 6 episodes, each about 15 minutes long. Listeners will hear about Peter Chadwick's crimes, his arrest, the beginning of the court proceedings, and how he's been able to escape justice so far. Episodes will come out on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Episode 0, which is an introduction to the series, and Episode 1 have already been released. Episode 2 will be released tomorrow. We've also put together a website you can visit at countdowntocapture.com. There you'll find transcripts of every episode, photos of evidence, pictures of Peter Chadwick, and other additional content. You can also listen to the episodes on the website or find them using your preferred podcast tool. I'm proud of the diligence and quality work of our investigators who built the case against Peter Chadwick. I'm grateful for the teamwork of our outstanding partner agencies who are standing here with us today. I'm proud of our efforts to secure a $100,000 reward and produce this podcast, and I'm confident that together we will spread the word until Peter Chadwick has nowhere else to hide. The countdown to capture begins now.
Thank you, Chief. And next we'll hear from District Attorney Rakakis.
Mr. Chadwick, you're in a very bad situation here. You're a fugitive from justice. There's a $100,000 reward on your head. The word is getting out everywhere. It's going to get to every corner of the world. You can run, but you can't hide much longer. So do yourself a favor, Mr. Chadwick, and turn yourself in.
Thank you, sir. Peter Chadwick is described as a white male, 5 foot 7 inches tall, weighing 160 pounds. He has brown hair and blue eyes. He was born on February 18th, 1964, which would make him currently 54 years old. Anyone with information about Peter Chadwick or his whereabouts is encouraged to call our tip line, which is 1-800-550-NBPD, or to email us at tips@nbpd.org. We'll now have a few minutes for questions before our speakers need to go. Before we start taking questions, though, I'd like to point out one thing. This is still an open investigation. We are happy to answer any questions that we can, but we cannot share many details about the facts of this crime. Our main focus today is really the steps that we are taking to intensify the search for Peter Chadwick through the reward, the podcast, etc. And Peter Chadwick being one of the top 15 most wanted from the U.S. Marshals. We will have handouts for our media partners in attendance with a copy of the press release from the U.S. Marshals Service and more information about the Countdown to Capture podcast that I'll be happy to distribute to you at the end of the press conference. That being said, any questions? Yes?
You talk about how he's covering his tracks. Is there any example that we can see of how he's covered his tracks?
The question was, do we have any additional information about how Peter Chadwick has covered his tracks? What I can say is that Peter Chadwick has a great deal of money at his disposal. As you listen to the podcast, you'll find that he was able to empty millions of dollars out of bank accounts that he had access to, take out cash advances on credit cards, and those financial resources have allowed him to do what he should not have been doing, which is to travel. And we don't know where he has traveled to. We haven't been able to find him, which tells us he's been able to cover his tracks pretty well.
Even though he's getting money off a credit card, you're not able to figure out where he's taking that money out?
If I misspoke, I'm sorry. The credit card cash advances were taken before he disappeared. Yes.
Have there been any credible sightings or what he says where he might be?
I don't have any information I can share as any tips that we've had at this point. We, at this point, are really hoping that these outreach efforts will lead us to new tips and information for where he might be. He could be anywhere in the world.
Do you have any belief that he might be in Mexico or another country? Do you have belief he might be still in the United States?
We're following any information that we have, but at this point, we don't have anything to narrow our search to any one particular country.
Is he getting any financial help from family?
Not to the best of my knowledge.
Has his family been helpful at all? So I was reading that, he stayed with his dad for a while and everything, he had no idea. They couldn't have any sort of information.
The question was about the helpfulness that Peter Chadwick might be receiving from his family. During the time that Peter was out on bail, he was staying with family members, and the family has been very cooperative with us. We have interviewed family members over the course of the years that he's been missing, and at this point, it really seems to be a mystery where Peter Chadwick could be.
Jennifer has three children. How are they doing right now? And has he tried to make any attempt at communication with his kids?
I can't say for certain if he's had any communication with his children. At the time of the crime, Peter Chadwick's 3 sons were ages 9, 12, and 15. They're growing into young men at this point. Situations like this actually are very hard on the family, and our hearts go out to them anytime they have to read about this tragic crime in the newspaper or hear about it or be approached by people. So we do ask, and I appreciate having this platform to ask, to not approach the family with hurtful questions if you can. But we are in contact with them, and they're doing as well as could be possibly hoped. Yes?
Do you mind, Tony, if you mind going back up, can we talk a little bit about bail? A lot of people wonder why people are allowed to post bail. It's the law, correct? And Tony, can you address that, please? And also, when he bailed out, his passport was seized. Is that correct? And can you just walk us through those steps?
Sure. Yes, a person does have a right to bail, and he has a right to a reasonable bail, which is defined as the amount of bail that it would take to, quote, guarantee somebody's return to court. So he was out on $1 million bail, and being out on bail, he made 13 court appearances until November, and he had another court date set in January, so about 2 months off, and he did not appear for that court date, and so that bail is forfeited. It's forfeited to the county or to the court.
And with regard to the passport, is that normally seized when you post bail?
Yes. The question is whether or not a person's passport is normally seized when you post bail. Yes, it is. Certainly, in most serious cases, that's a normal part of the procedure. We seize the passport so that it's more difficult to travel, and so in this case now there's been a warrant issued for his arrest in the amount of $5 million. So when he's arrested, he would be required to post $5 million in order to bail out, but we don't think that's going to happen. I think that we would quickly arrange for a no bail in this particular case. So.
Was he required to wear an ankle bracelet at any time, and if not, did that ever come up? Was that ever requested by your office?
Question is whether or not he was required to wear an ankle bracelet. No.
Did your office request that at any time, or did it ever come up in discussion for his bail?
I don't have information that our office requested that in this particular case when he was bailed out. And he was bailed out on the normal bail of $1 million in a murder case. Actually, the case started as a special circumstance case, and then it was reduced to first degree murder. When it went to first degree murder, then the bail was set at $1 million, and he was able to bail out.
But knowing the resources he has, why wasn't it asked that he wear a GPS reader?
What you're saying is knowing the resources, why wasn't the judge set the bail at that, and that's what we had to live with. The question is whether or not we can request higher bail, and whether or not we can request GPS. We can. At the time, we weren't requesting the GPS and the bracelets that much in these cases. So we're doing it a lot more these days because of our ability to have that equipment on a widespread basis.
Is in this case that suspected that he likely has changed his name, changed his look, didn't get out of the country, given his passport?
Well, we know he's been a fugitive from justice for this time period, and so any of these things could have happened. Your question is whether or not he might have changed his name, changed his look, his appearance, and so forth, and he may well have done so. But we think that with $100,000 bail, that's going to make a difference. $100,000 reward, that's going to make a difference.
So just to be clear, he did have his passport seized. Yes.
Yes.
So he was traveling under a different passport.
Well, we don't know how he was traveling exactly, so if so I don't know that he had another passport or what.
Tony, you just had a case recently that we covered with you about a man who is in the UK, and it took several years in order to negotiate the extradition of that guy. So, are you concerned about this, and what countries play ball and which ones don't? I mean, I know I'm asking you to cover a lot of ground here, but can you just talk generally about that and the challenge that your prosecutors have when, if he is in another country and getting him back here?
Well, we actually do have a great deal of cooperation with other countries and with the United States, with the State Department, and if we get him into custody, we will make every effort to work as fast as we can to get him back. If you're asking which countries play ball and which ones don't and that sort of thing, maybe I'd be better off to turn that over to the marshal.
Thank you. Would you mind
If you know.
helping us with that?
Well, I guess the answer to that question is, of course, it depends on the country, and then it depends on the case. So it's kind of individual to what crime was committed, who the person is, and what country. They can take a long time sometimes, and sometimes they don't. So I know that's not a specific answer, but a lot goes into it.
And is it easier because this is not a special circumstance case anymore, so we're not looking at the death penalty, so is it more likely that countries would then cooperate?
In some cases, yes. Some, obviously, because it's not a special circumstance case, that does make it easier. But based on the nature of his crime, in most cases, extradition is not that difficult.
And what
It just
has
depends.
your office done up till now to find him? Can you just kind of highlight some of the techniques and how long you've been searching? I mean, have you guys been on this for 3 years?
I don't know exactly when we took the case. I don't know if someone else could answer that, but we have a very similar procedure for that I really can't get into, but we try to look at all the easy things first and then the other things that he might do, because again, he does have money, so he's able to do some things that other fugitives can't, as far as false ID and things like that, and use cash, don't have to use credit cards, things like that.
Is it possible he's not alive?
I don't have any idea.
Can somebody talk about the books that were kind of important to play, talking about surviving this and some of the other evidence that was left behind in the
I can talk about that briefly. So the Fugitive Task Force found that Peter Chadwick had been reading material about living off the grid and changing your identity. So we know that he had done research prior to him disappearing in different ways that he could cover his tracks depending on where he ended up.
And he's a British national, correct?
So Peter Chadwick was born in the UK. He became a naturalized citizen here in 1991, I believe, and should hold dual citizenship, had both passports, which were both seized at the point that he bailed out of jail.
Again, the reason for the announcement today is because of the podcast and feature.
So the question is, what is the reason for our press conference today? And it's really to announce a couple different tactics that we're taking to find Peter Chadwick. We're trying to intensify the search for him because we are ready to see him stand trial. We have the $100,000 reward, which has been very generously provided by private donors, the City of Newport Beach, and the United States Marshals Service. Peter Chadwick is one of the faces on the U.S. Marshals Top 15 list, which is excellent to get that kind of support from our partner agency. And in addition to that, the Newport Beach Police Department is very proud to share this podcast with the public.
Have there been any renderings done about what he actually looks like, if he shaved his head or was wearing a beard?
We do have a number of photos up on the Countdown to Capture website. We show photos that were taken at the time of his arrest with various levels of facial hair, as well as candid shots that we recovered from QC's cell phone. So we have him in a variety of different styles. This crime benefits from the fact that it was only committed in 2012, so our photos are not that old. 6 years will have passed next month from the time that those photos were taken. Or I'm sorry, 6 years will pass next month.
You know, I was reading that in the very beginning that there was video at Santa Barbara Airport that showed him arriving in a taxi and then leaving clothes on multiple hours later.
I do know that the Marshal Service has been actively pursuing every lead that they have. I don't know if, Marshal, you have anything to add to that, but every lead that we have had has been exhausted to the fullest. We have been actively working this case, both as a police agency, from the District Attorney's Office, from the Marshals, from our partners at the FBI as well, getting all the support we can to chase down any potential leads to find Peter Chadwick. Anything else? Thank you. I'm going to release our speakers. I'll be handing out paperwork for you. Again, thank you everyone for joining us.